Jason can't believe what he's seeing. He just watched his lock of an NBA parlay lose on a buzzer beater. This was supposed to have been his way out of debt, but things just never seem to go his way in gambling. So what can he do now? He could just call it quits, pay down the debt, and make sure that things don't get worse. Or he could sell his grandmother's wedding ring and give that parlay one more try. Of course, he chooses the second option. Let's check back in a bit to find out how that's going. Leo. Leo can remember a time in his life when he was one shot away from financial ruin, the same way that Jason was tonight. But now Leo is officially a year clean from his gambling addiction and is finally finding stability. Now it doesn't even matter if his hometown team loses at the buzzer. Well, he still cares a little bit, but 20 minutes later, he'll be right back to the grind, unaffected by the results of the game. He's happy, healthy, and stress-free. Oh yeah, and he's still got his grandmother's wedding ring. Today's topic is a serious one. Have you ever sold anything to finance gambling? I'll be breaking this question down, and I'm also going to be sharing the 4 major consequences that come along with selling possessions to gamble. And honestly, some of them are probably not what you're expecting. If you're new here, my name is Rob, and I'm a recovering gambling addict. I made my last bet on November the 12th of 2022, and since then I've made it my personal mission to help you learn more about gambling addiction. If you want to make sure that you're staying aware of all the possible red flags of gambling addiction, smash that subscribe button, because that's exactly what we're going to be accomplishing today and every day. Now, before we begin, let's clarify that not everyone will get addicted to gambling, but anyone can get hooked. When it starts to impact other aspects of your life other than the occasional night out, like, for example, if you're selling possessions to fuel your gambling habits, that's when it becomes a cause for concern. If it wasn't obvious already, selling personal belongings to finance gambling is a big red flag. It indicates that someone might be struggling with a gambling addiction and not thinking rationally about their next steps. One of the primary motivating factors in this is the relentless pursuit to recover losses. Jason is right back at it. He's hit the first 4 legs of his 5-leg parlay to retire rich. He's feeling confident. He's feeling like that ring was actually a gift from his ancestors so that he could create generational wealth. He just watched the star forward of the last team snap his ankle. Oh no. They can hang on for the win without him, right? Well, the other team just scored 9 points in a row, and there's a timeout on the floor. You can probably see where this one's heading, but we'll check back on Jason again later. Leo is completely unaware of the drama unfolding in the NBA tonight. Instead, he's finishing up a business plan for his new venture. Because now that he's not gambling and he's in a better financial position, he's finally pursuing his dream of becoming an entrepreneur. He's got 3 pages to go, and he is motivated to finish it. In fact, nothing is distracting him. He could be sitting around remembering the days where he sold his laptop to finance a big bet, but instead of thinking about the past, Leo's looking forward with optimism. Selling valuable items to recoup money lost during gambling sessions can create a dangerous cycle of chasing losses that becomes really difficult to break. Because once you do it that first time, you set a precedent for yourself. Whenever you're feeling that urge, like you have a lock or a big win is imminent, you could begin to think to yourself, man, I could just sell this and then I could make the bet and buy it back afterwards. But this creates the classic pawn shop situation you see every gambling addict in every movie go through, where they pawn off their prized possessions, swearing that they'll come and get it back. The honest truth is that this actually does happen. I mean, why do you think Vegas has so many pawn shops? Have you ever seen the show Pawn Stars? Where do you think that's shot? Now, another consequence of this spiral into gambling addiction is neglecting responsibilities. If someone's selling possessions that could be used to pay for bills, rent, or other essential needs like food to fund their gambling, it's a very clear indication that the habit's spiraling out of control. Jason did it again. That last bet lost, but he's convinced it was a stroke of bad luck that couldn't possibly happen again. He found a great deal on his car, and he's going to go all in on the NFL game tonight to win back everything that he's lost and maybe even get a nicer car. He's got the underdog because he believes he's got the sharp value on this one. He's ready to roll. The game's ready to go. It kicks off. And the favorite runs the kickoff back for a touchdown. It could be a long night. Let's check back in on him later. Leo's finished building his business plan, and he's actually managed to impress the first client that he pitched it to. He doesn't know what's going to happen next in his future, but he knows that since he stopped gambling, things have just started to come together a little bit easier. Of course, he still has some problems, but Now that he's not causing his own problems, he's actually able to better handle what does come his way. Things look good for Leo, and they look good for his business. Wow, what a difference a year makes. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I wanted to share 4 consequences of selling possessions to gamble in an effort to make you aware of the risks that are actually involved. The very first is obvious, it's financial ruin. Selling personal belongings to fuel a gambling addiction often leads to really severe financial consequences. As people deplete their assets, they may find themselves in a really crappy financial situation, struggling to meet basic needs, such as paying rent, utilities, or even buying essential items again. The financial ruin resulting from selling valuable possessions can carry with it long-lasting effects on you. Unlike the wins, which seem wildly temporary before we try to win more. Next is strained relationships. The impact of selling items to continue gambling extends beyond personal finances. It can strain relationships with family, friends, and partners. Loved ones might really feel betrayed, hurt, or deceived when they discover that valuable possessions of yours, or even theirs, have been sold to fund gambling habits. This strain on relationships can lead to isolation, damaged trust, and in some cases, complete breakdowns in personal connection. The next consequence is the emotional toll. Selling cherished possessions to sustain gambling activities takes a huge toll on the people themselves that are doing it. Guilt, shame, and regret often accompany the realization that those personal items had some sentimental value to them, but they've been sacrificed for the urge and the rush to chase after the next gambling win. This emotional burden can contribute to the cycle of addiction, as people will then turn to gambling as a coping mechanism to escape the negative emotions associated with their gambling, which ends up making everything worse. Next, or lastly, legal consequences. Because in some cases, selling possessions to finance gambling could cause some major legal repercussions. If people resort to illegal activities like theft or specifically fraud to obtain funds for gambling, they expose themselves to tons of liability. Legal consequences can worsen the challenges that they face, again compounding the already complex issue that we talked about of the financial, emotional, and interpersonal problems that are associated with this gambling addiction. But okay, enough of that. You've heard it now. Please be safe out there. I'm not going to harp on it for a second longer. We should actually go and check back on Leo and Jason and see how things ended up. Jason is depressed. The bet lost, obviously, and everything feels stacked against him. He feels like no matter what he does, he can't win gambling. Then it hits him. No matter what he does, he can't win gambling. So Jason makes the first step toward a better life and searches up how to quit gambling online. It's the start of better days for Jason. But he's a little bit overwhelmed and he's not quite sure where to start. But then he remembered that one of his old friends from high school was actually in recovery for a gambling addiction and had told him that. So he decided to give him a call. Leo's phone rings and look at that, it's his old pal from high school, Jason. He answers it, and after hearing about the problem, decides that it would be best for Jason to come into a meeting with him so that he could walk him through the initial steps to get clean. He also recommended that Jason go and check out this guy that he found on YouTube, Rob One Day at a Time. Leo told Jason that he's been subscribed for a few months, and it really has helped him to know that he's not alone in the fight. Shameless plug there, guys. I'm sorry. Had to throw that one in. But as we wrap up today's discussion, it's important to remember that gambling should be a form of entertainment, not a destructive force in our lives. So if you're anything at all like me and you're watching this video right now, it's best to stop before we even get started, because we know deep down, maybe not even deep down, that it isn't just innocent entertainment anymore. If you suspect that you or someone you know is struggling with a gambling addiction, don't hesitate to seek help. My account is just one resource, but down below in the description, I've linked some more free resources for you to check out to be a little bit less like Jason and a little bit more like Leo. Now, all of that is going to happen one day at a time.